Clark Judge joins us now for a couple of minutes. CBS Sports senior NFL columnist from New Orleans. Where were you when the lights went out?
I was in the press box watching the game. All of a sudden I realized, we don't have any power here, and I can't see the field. Oh, yeah, I can. I can see some players over there.
So were you, in Super Bowls, for the fans that don't know this, sometimes you're placed in a really good position in a press box. Sometimes you're not. Were you able to see, like, at the 50-yard line? Where were you in reference to the yard lines?
Well, I think, Brad, I'm just trying to think. I'm going to guess it was somewhere around the 30, 25, something like that. And,
so not bad.
No, not bad. But in New Orleans, you're at the very top of the building, and it's escalators up, and then it's a steep walk up through the auxiliary press box to the press box because some of the elevators weren't working. Apparently, the elevators here don't hold any more than 5 to 10 people. So for some people who were not young. I mean, there were a couple behind me. It was really difficult. I mean, there was one guy who was sweating, and I thought, boy, someone's going to have to help him getting up these stairs. And when I say steep, I mean really steep, like a 45 angle degree steep. And so it was tough. I mean, it wasn't an easy place to get into. But, of course, your listeners saying, hey, listen, you got in free. You watched a good game. What are you complaining about? I'm not complaining. I'm just observing.
Sure. But there was no nervousness about this. It was just...
No. I mean, in fact, there were announcements of, everyone sort of stay in their seats. So there's nothing going on here. With some power outage, we're checking into it. Don't panic. And people didn't. I mean, people were sort of, there wasn't booing. There was anything else. People sort of curious what's going on here. The teams were stretching on the each side of the field. And I thought, boy, the longer this goes on, I'm just really curious what impact it has on the game, because I've seen this happen before, and I've honestly seen it have a dramatic impact where suddenly the team that's in charge is no longer in charge. And that seemed to sort of happen in the immediate aftermath, but then Baltimore sort of got its second wind and held on.
Do you blame John Harbaugh? Do you credit Jim Harbaugh for the second half? I mean, was it one as simple as the Ravens didn't come back as focused, or the 49ers were just that good?
I think the 49ers were that good, and I think with something like that, you can't blame anyone. I mean, as I've said, I've seen it happen before, where all of a sudden players just, whoa, we had something going and we've lost it. We need to get it back, and I think they did get it back on that first drive that took them down to, I think, the 1-yard line, and then they didn't score a touchdown, but they kicked the field goal. I thought it was key for them to get something out of that. I thought they should have gotten a touchdown, but they didn't. And then that last drive I thought was critical with the 3rd and inches call. Boy, is that a gutsy call, throwing the ball to Anquan Bolden down the sideline. To me, that was the play of the game.
Clark Judge, CBSSports.com, senior NFL columnist from New Orleans. Okay, so I saw some numbers this morning that the last 5 NFL postseasons, there have been 55 games, Clark. The officials have thrown only 2 flags for defensive holding or defensive pass interference in the last two rounds. So where do you put the Crabtree play? Should he have sold it more? Do you criticize him? Where do you put that one?
Well, Brad, I'm going to give you an answer you're probably not going to like, but I think it's sort of the way it goes, because I hear 49er fans complaining, and my response is, I don't want to hear it, because you can't have it both ways. The only reason you're here is because Navarro Bowman mugged Roddy White in the conference championship game on 4th down, and they didn't call it. And that was down at the 5-yard line. They didn't call it. So that got them here, and now they want this one called. Well, unfortunately, they're not going to call it unless it's blatant. And maybe it looked blatant to you. I mean, if I'm a 49er fan, yeah, I'm complaining. But if I'm a Baltimore fan, I say it happens, I mean, it could have been, it couldn't have been. But they didn't call it in the Atlanta game, and they're not going to call it here. It's just one of those things. It's kind of like, you talked about crucial penalties in playoff games. For whatever reason, they tend to swallow their whistle. And I've seen it in overtimes at playoff games in hockey, just the way it goes.
And I agree with you on that. I mean, to me, there was contact. There's no question. But I think, first of all, even if he does get his fingers on it, it's so far out of bounds that for him to get both feet in, it's Antonio Holmes-esque. And we were familiar with that one. So I can't sit here and say that's where the game was decided. I did not have a problem. I think I saw on Twitter you did not like the fake by the Ravens. And I absolutely love that, because I believe in my defense. If I'm John Harbaugh, I believe in my defense. Now, 9 yards is a long ways to go. I'll give you that. But still, that's just, I think, even more so speaks to the confidence that John Harbaugh had, Clark.
Oh, I don't disagree with that, but you've taken 3 points off the board, and you look at the end of that game, and you think, would you like to have those 3 points back? Absolutely. It's a great call if it works. It didn't work, and honestly, it should have worked. Had Dixon made the block, he was going to get the first down. But that said, you just took 3 points off the board. I thought it was a critical mistake at that point. As I said, if it works, you go, genius. But that's the way it goes in this game. Things work, you look like a genius. When they don't, you look like an idiot. I don't think you look like an idiot, but I just wouldn't have done it. I would have taken the sure shot.
Okay, you're still in New Orleans. You talked to both coaches today? Or just
No, I talked to John today, walked out with John today. Actually, it's sort of weird because here's John does his press conference, and then they bring up people from the power authority here, and they're talking about the outage, and everyone goes to them. And another reporter and I walked out with John, and it was, we're walking out with the Super Bowl coach, and we're the only ones there. There's no one from Baltimore talking to him, nobody. We're standing there at the bottom of the convention center by ourselves and kicked around a couple things with him. I've known John for years. Very engaging guy, very unlike his brother. I mean, he's really interested in what you're about and talking to you, and I was really glad for him. I mean, good things happen to good people. He's a good guy.
Did he talk about the afterwards with his brother and his family by chance?
He
did they get?
He did. He said he hasn't spoken to his brother since he spoke to him on the field. Really didn't see his mom and dad until after he saw them after the game. So really hasn't spoken to them, either one of them, parents or his brother, since immediately after the game. And then someone asked him, "Do you anticipate at some point sitting down in the off-season with your brother and watching this game?" He goes, "I don't think that's going to happen."
Yeah, those still getting to it again. Joe Flacco, so this morning he gets a Stingray and was kind of blown away by the car, right?
He was, yeah. He they were telling him that it can accelerate from 0 to 60 in, I think, something like 4 seconds. And his wife she's just sort of told him that they're expecting their second child. And he goes, I don't think I'm going to be driving this from 0 to 60 in 4 seconds with kids in the car.
Okay, before the Super Bowl, it had come out that Joe Flacco's people thought he would get paid in excess of $20 million. Now that this
around 20, around 20,
yeah. Do you still see that as the number?
Well, they do, but no, I don't. I mean, he got a Super Bowl victory, and he certainly set the standard, I think, for future quarterbacks in the playoffs. I mean, what he did was unbelievable. Not just 11 touchdowns, no interceptions. He beat Manning on the road, and he beat Brady in a conference championship game on the road. So he did everything he was supposed to do. Now, that price that we were talking about several weeks ago of maybe $16 million, $17 million a year, that just went up. But they want to say it went up to $20 million in the Drew Brees, Peyton Manning, Tom Brady category. Well, his agent's point is, I'm paying on what he's going to do. You're telling me they were paid on what they did do. And I say, yeah, that's true. And he goes, well, that's not smart business. Except, who was the face of the franchise? Drew Brees is the face of the Saints franchise. Manning's the face of Denver. Certainly Brady's the face of New England. Is Flacco the face of Baltimore? No. But he might be. It's changing.
He's close.
Yeah, I mean, Ray Lewis was. You could say Ed Reed, Ray Rice. But now it's beginning to change. So I'm going to say somewhere in the 18 to 19. I'm not going to 20, but I think he's getting up there.
Okay, and this will sound like a hometown guy doing his thing, but that's fine. Anquan Boldin, in my opinion, when it is all said and done, is going to be a Hall of Famer.
No.
No?
No.
How do you...
Brad, it took years. It took, 6 years for Chris Carter to get it? Look at his numbers. Are astonishing.
Right. Steve Largent, Art Monk. I'm saying I saw his face destroyed. I saw him lay out. I've seen him through the years, Clark, make huge play after huge play, whether it was here or there. There's not many better than him.
Well, I agree with you, but who would you rather have, for instance, Hines Ward or Anquan Boldin? And Hines Ward's going to have a tough time getting in the Hall of Fame. He is. I'm just telling you. And Anquan Boldin, I don't think is on anybody's radar right now.
Right now.
Now, when he retires, maybe he is. But I think they look at him as he's a very good receiver, but it's not the Hall of Very Good. It's the Hall of Fame.
772 catches all time, 58 career touchdowns. I'm just going through numbers. And I know it did take Chris Carter a long time, and I'm taking a shot here. I've just seen this guy ascend, and he's never going to be somebody that gets attention. That he doesn't want attention.
Right.
But you're just blowing me out of the water on this one.
Well, I'm not.
5 years from now,
I'm not trying to tell you what's going to happen. I'm just trying to tell you what the mood of that room is. Andre Reed can't get there right now. Andre Reed was a great receiver. Without Andre Reed, the Buffalo Bills don't go to 4 straight Super Bowls. They just don't. And I look at Bolden, and he's a terrific receiver. I'm not trying to knock him down. I love the guy. But when you're talking about Hall of Fame, you've got a backlog at receivers. You can't get Tim Brown in. You can't get Andre Reed in. You just got Chris Carter and his 130 touchdown catches in after waiting 6 years, or 6 years as a finalist. So I'm just going to say it's going to be very, very difficult.
Now, you were in the room, right?
Yes.
Yeah. How contentious was it on some of these this year? I know.
On a couple it was. I mean, Modell, it was, and we expected it to be. On others, it was. I mean, on all of them, it's pretty interesting to hear what people have to say. But you could tell with the Modell deliveries and discussions that the room was divided, and you'd go, "There's no chance this guy making the final." You just knew that. And in some respects, I felt sort of sorry, but you take the most worthy guys, and honestly, in that group, I thought he was one of the 10 most worthy. I knew he wasn't going to get to the final 5. I just knew that because he was against numbers. And with contributors, he was up against Eddie DeBartolo and Bill Parcells. And in that order, it was Parcells, DeBartolo, and Modell. Modell was a long shot that really had almost no shot. Parcells, you looked at and said, this might be the year, and it was.
Yeah. And Curly Culp, they feel good out here because he's an ASU guy.
They should. You know what? Curly Culp, that's what I actually sent out yesterday. Warren Sapp should feel good about himself for making the Hall of Fame. He's the second best defensive tackle in this year's class.
That's a good line. Before I let you go, the story that you'll take from this Super Bowl.
Probably, Flacco and also what Flacco did under duress. I mean, he was under pressure, had a gun really pointed to his head. You got to produce if you want that big contract, and he did. But what the Ravens did down the stretch, and Brad, I'm a big believer in this, and because we've talked about this before, in teams making late runs. Not the best teams necessarily win the Super Bowl. It didn't happen this year. Didn't happen last year. Didn't happen the year before. But the best teams in the playoffs win. The teams that get hot at the right time. These guys got hot the second to last week of the season. Same thing happened with the Giants last year. Same thing happened with the Packers 2 years ago. If you pick the right spot and you get some momentum late, you sneak in there, and suddenly anything's possible. When we look at the last 3 teams, there's a lesson there. And the lesson is if you get hot at the right time, you can win this thing. You can beat better teams. And these teams did, and the Ravens certainly proved that point.
Stay well. Travel safe. Thanks.
Thanks, Brad.
Clark Judge.